Okay, we are on live. So, good evening to the second episode of today's special Monday. So, we have a very special guest with us from joining from Denver, Colorado, Mr. Sangameshwaran, and you can call him Sangam. And we friends, and especially in their cyberspace, he is known as Chullan Putter. So it is like it's known as handsome Putter. Of course, he is very handsome. So that is how, and he has a very famous blogspot, chullanputter.blogspot.com. So you can read him over there. He writes in English, Malayalam, Tamil. He can speak multiple languages. And he is almost like, what I can say, in my entire friend circle, he is one person. He can use all those instruments. He can play DJ. He can play, different types of instruments. He sings, fantastically well. So you can follow him in Facebook. And moreover, he is one of those most renowned cybersecurity specialists who is even invited by our Interpol to speak in Delhi. So now you can understand which level he is in cybersecurity. And he was even honored by the Parliament of Canada. So on his contribution to the cybersecurity space to create awareness. So and the qualifications which he has, I can't put it on the screen because it's a very big long list. Probably during our talk, he will definitely share us how can we acquire, or those people who are watching this, or those young generation who really want to create a career in engineering, IT, cybersecurity space, how can they get this qualification, get this expertise which Mr. Sangam has. So thank you so much, Sangam, for accepting our invitation, and welcome to our Career Coffee.
Thank you, Sree Kiran, for that illustrious introduction, and then welcoming me to be part of this interaction, and then sharing some helpful tips so that it would be helpful for others.
So our audience will get built up probably because it's almost like 8 o'clock in India, and I'm sure you are very early in the early morning in lockdown season there in US. So thank you so much for joining us. Even I troubled you a bit, so still. So now we are actually eager to listen to your story as well, like initially. So how you built your career?
Yeah, so that will be a good start. So I have been in the industry for almost more than 2 decades. So I started my career in the IT world by joining an Oracle consulting company. So I was doing Oracle DBA related job, and I was primarily into programming, and then because it suits my personality to do the pre-sales or system engineering, or like interface with the customer, understand the requirements, and then architecting the solution. So I had to move into that space, which was in the early stages. So when I say early stages, it was in the late 1999. So once I joined that space, and then that was the time when cybersecurity company Symantec was setting up their operations in India. So they wanted somebody to join their team, and we were only 4 or 5 of us in the country. So what happened was that I joined them without even realizing what cybersecurity was, because I was so keen in finding out and learning newer things. So I'm always interested in learning new concepts and new topics, or new knowledge, new information, and all those things. So my mind was always interested in learning something different and something more. So that was the reason why I moved into cybersecurity. So I joined them in 2000, and then from there I was really getting into the cybersecurity space. So those days, cybersecurity was mainly to deal with the malicious dealing with malicious piece of softwares which are known as virus. So virus is vital information under siege. So that is the acronym for that. So virus was most popular. Like this was the time when Fun Love, Nimda, and I Love You virus and those kind of things. So I was dealing with that. So without even realizing what was cybersecurity, I joined the cybersecurity world, and then started my journey from there. And then I was one of the early certified cybersecurity specialist in India at that time on SANS. So SANS certification is System Administration, Networking, and Security. So SANS had the certification for GIAC, like Global Information Assurance Certification. So I was one of those early cybersecurity specialists who got certified in in that space. So that was my story. And then I started building up more knowledge, information, and then adding more certification, because cybersecurity as an industry where your credentials or your experience as well as your certifications hold prime importance in your line of work. So the more certifications you have, the more knowledge you have. In that way, I'm saying that just because you have certification, you may not have the required knowledge. You also need to demonstrate that knowledge. So you need to impart that knowledge. You need to share that information with your colleagues. You need to share that information with your customers. You need to share that information with others. So I'm a strong believer and proponent of the fact that information increases by sharing. People may not be interested in sharing their wealth. I can understand that. But information and knowledge, it should be shared. And now, how do you use this information and knowledge? It is up to you. You can use the same piece of information for a good purpose as well as for a not so good purpose. So it all depends on like where in your work ethics, your personal ethics, your professional ethics, where you stand and what exactly you do with that. And that explains my core ideology and core philosophy in life as well as in my professional life.
Okay, thank you so much. So now, and as you rightly said, the sharing, by sharing, our knowledge also get increased, and you are here just to share your experience and your knowledge. Thank you so much for that. Now, just to start, like from the beginning, we have audience from or spectators from 10 standard, 11 standard, 12 standard, and parents of these kids, and even engineering professionals, will be watching this video. So now I just want to know, for those kid who is in a 10th standard, 11th standard, or 12th standards, so what are the skill set he has to have to build a career in IT? So I'll come to cybersecurity soon. So just to start as a basic, in information technology, to take that as a career. So how can he realize himself or discover himself that, okay, I'm the best fit for the industry? Because now everywhere people feel like, yeah, I will become a software engineer because that has become the buzzword. So, but then how these people can really discover themselves that, yes, I have this, orientation towards IT.
Okay, yeah. So IT is a broader field, and then it has to do anything with information technology. So there are
Yeah.
different branches within information technology. So I focus on the cybersecurity side, but I'll give some general guidelines. So
Yeah.
to be successful in any kind of professions or any kind of your future plans, you have to keep two, three things in mind. One is having an open mind in learning new concepts. So you should not be like, I know this, so I don't need to learn this in a different way. So anything which can be learned in a slightly different way, that increases your mental capacity in learning something new and then building up new skill sets. Because cybersecurity as a field or information technology as such, it's an ever evolving area of work, because the technologies keep changing, and then you need to be keeping up your pace with the change in which the pace in which the changes are coming into that field. So you have to keep two, three things in mind. One is you should always be keen in learning something new. You should always be keen in learning. You should always be good in your communication skills. So you need to know how to communicate what you know about a specific topic or a specific concept with others. So there is
Mhm.
no point in saying that I have all the knowledge, but I will not share, or I don't know how to share it with others. So that will not be of any use. Then you can do really well in your research, but even in research, you have to present a paper and then you have to speak about that, right? So your communication skills, your interpersonal skills are going to be important. The other thing is like you should constantly keep watching the news as well as reading informative articles about the area which you want to enter into. So cybersecurity is one of those vast areas. Like you can start from understanding the basics about networking, and then when I say networking, this is the computer networking. So you also need professional networking as well. So when you build up your career, you have to do the professional networking as well. So you have to build up your LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is one of those professional networking options available as part of social networking. Like Facebook is one thing, but for professional things, LinkedIn is a must. So you need to have a catchy headline as and when you are ready to get into that. You need to set up a profile properly. You need to have a professional looking headshot, which has to be done as part of your profile picture in LinkedIn. So please don't use any of your Facebook profile pictures in your LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has to be looking really professional, and you need to have a catchy headline which says that, okay, I am someone who is interested in like continuous learning, and I need to understand more about the area in which I'm going to work and all those things. So it should be really nice. So that is another thing. Then the third thing is you need to start building up your basics. Like if you are planning to get into information technology, or if you're planning to get into cybersecurity, two three things which you have to do is because it's an ever changing, industry, right? So because of the hackers, or because of people who are acting with some malicious intent, there are different areas in which they are always two three steps ahead of us. So we need to be abreast with technology. We need to see what exactly is going on in that industry space worldwide. We might be based in India, but we should know what's happening in Asia Pacific. We should know what is happening in Middle East. We should know what is happening in Europe. We should know what is happening in North and South America. So because we should know like what exactly is happening, because the technology which we are going to work in cybersecurity is not going to get restricted only with one area. So there is no concept which says that this concept is applicable only to India. This concept is only applicable to some other country, or it's applicable only to North America. So you have to keep an open mind, and you have to read, keep reading more about the technology. You have to keep reading more about cybersecurity if you want to get into that. So I will also highlight what are some of the things which you can do as you to further your studies and to further your like knowledge building in that space. Is there are specific focus courses in some of the best universities in the world. So there is an MS in cybersecurity and information security in Royal Holloway in UK. So that is one of the best. And then there are other universities who offer similar programs. So my suggestion or my advice to those who want to get into those kind of higher education within cybersecurity is that you have to keep two three things in mind. One is you have to closely see the curriculum, how often they change the curriculum or update the curriculum. If there is a university which is offering a curriculum which is 5 years old or 10 years old, there is no point in going and enrolling in that kind of a course, because you will not get that kind of a benefit. Because by the time you complete the course in 2 years, 3 years time frame, that technology will become obsolete. So it doesn't make much of a sense to do that kind of course. Then the second thing is you have to know whether, as part of this course, is there an industry interaction which is happening, rather than getting taught just by professors. Are the industry people coming and interacting with the students so that they can share their industry experience and stuff like that. So when I was in Toronto, like till 1 year back, I was based in Toronto. So I was in Canada for almost 10, 11 years. So what happened was that I used to go for this industry interaction to teach cloud security in University of Toronto. So that was really nice because I was sharing my industry experience. The professor was sharing knowledge from that domain, like what exactly is cloud security. So I go there and share my experience and what they should look into, what areas they should try to build up so that they will get good insight about cloud security from an industry perspective. One is knowledge, the other one is the industry perspective. So you need to have these two. Now, the third thing the students who want to get into cybersecurity to keep in mind is that they should always know and they should always look into what exactly is the placement options after this. Because cybersecurity is like the chicken and the egg story, like which came first kind of thing. Like either you need to have proper experience and then you need to have knowledge as well. So without getting a job or without getting a job opening and then join and then start your career, you're not going to build up your experience. So placement is going to be of prime importance when you're looking at doing some higher studies in cybersecurity as well. Because if the placement is not great after you complete the course, you have to find a job for yourself. it may not be in a nice situation because you are planning to do this thinking that you'll definitely get a job in that field. But people, when they are hiring, they'll also look into whether you have the experience. So if you don't have the experience, you should start somewhere, right? So you should always have an open mind. Let me start somewhere like maybe at the lower level and then try to build up my experience and knowledge and then move up the chain. So if you have the basic thing is learning, constant learning, and then having an open mind so that you can gain that experience. Once you have the experience, then it's like molding the clay. Like you have the clay with you, but you need to mold it properly. So if you mold it, then it becomes very nice. It becomes a nice sculpture which you can create from that clay and all those things. So that means that when you have this open mind, then your mind will be flexible to do anything to get that experience and then to get that insight in how the cybersecurity industry is operating.
So now, just to go step by step, as you have given us fantastic information. So those kids who are in 10, 11, and 12 standard, so they have to have good logical thinking, as you said, and then conceptual understanding of the things, and they have to have an open mind to learn new things. And they, of course, they have to have mathematical skills as well. So numerical skills, and they get into engineering. Now in India, I haven't seen there are much institution offering cybersecurity as a major in engineering field. I have seen some of the universities come up with IoT, but then I haven't seen many coming up with a cybersecurity as a specialization. So many of them go with Bachelor of Engineering in CS, IT or CS, like that. The competition happens over here. Now, those people who are taking IT or whatever engineering field, how can they get into cybersecurity and how can they get trained themselves during their engineering time?
Okay, so multiple things. One is you need to find a mentor within the field. So you need to have a constant interaction with that mentor. So mentorship is of prime importance to make sure that the students who are interested in that specific area of technology are getting groomed into we call that like getting into the groove, like making sure that they are groomed properly into that kind of thing. So I mentor some of the students in some of the universities here. So what happens is that they get in touch regularly. We have regular touch points, and then we actually discuss about what they need to do. And kids here, like in North America, North America is like US as well as Canada as well. Kids are pretty much advanced in their thinking. So when they are in their grade 8 or grade 9, they start thinking about what areas they should focus when they are going into universities, or when here they call it like we are going to college. So when they are doing that, so what happens is that finding a mentor within that industry. Now, in cybersecurity is a vast space, but finding someone who can give some time to get that kind of visibility into what's happening and what more they could do, like how they should approach and all those things, is of primary importance. So you should find a mentor. If you cannot, and there are specific organizations, like I don't know about India, but definitely in other countries, there are mentorship organizations, a non-profit, where they actually do, they act as a bridge between the students and the industry experts, where they give their time so that they are giving back to the community. So it's like a volunteering service in making sure that the future generation, like the younger kids, are getting into that field and they are able to build up their skills properly. So we need to find out. So my advice to anyone, like any kids who are in their 11th, 12th, or engineering, who want to get into this field, is that they should definitely find a mentor within the industry, and then have regular touch point with them, and then making sure that they are getting guided properly. So once in a while, and uh, my suggestion is that don't have only one mentor. You can have multiple mentors, so that your views are not skewed just because you have only one mentor. So I always suggest that don't be dependent only on me as a mentor. Please have multiple mentors. So if I'm focusing on encryption technologies, if I'm focusing on Internet of Things, if I'm focusing on data loss prevention, so these are some of the cybersecurity areas. I would recommend them saying that for security incident handling or incident response or security operations center or computer networking, you should have some other vendor. So they will get a holistic view from multiple vendors as from their areas of focus. So someone who is very strong in their mathematical skills, they can definitely look into getting into encryption as one of those areas. So someone who is really interested in a process-oriented approach, data loss prevention is another area for them to get into, because data loss prevention is about like we have this concepts of castles and jails. So castles means you don't want good things to get out of that, and they don't want bad things to get inside. So that's the concept of castle.
Yes, sir.
And jail means the bad things should never get out. So that this is the basic analogy between those two approaches within cybersecurity. So what it means is that, so if you are getting into that kind of an approach where data loss prevention is one of those areas, then it's a process driven. So if you are very much structured in your thinking, process based approach and stuff like that, so data loss prevention. So there also you can split your area into multiple streams. Like you can get into engineering side. So engineering side is like software development. You can develop the softwares which can do this detection based on pattern matching and stuff like that. So the possibilities are endless. And the good thing is, like cybersecurity, the demand is more and the supply is less. So there is a big gap, and the gap is widening every year, like every month, every year, which the gap is really widening. So we are not getting enough qualified people to get into that. So I made it very clear, like we are not getting enough qualified people. So qualified people means either by education or their skill set or their experience. So just because you have a cybersecurity degree or you have a cybersecurity certificate doesn't mean that you can execute that. So how do you demonstrate that? So you should get that experience, right? So to getting that experience, that is what I was highlighting, saying that mentorship is one of those things, and then starting somewhere in one of those areas, and then having focus to build up your experience over a period of time, so that you can focus and you can shift into some other areas. Like I started from endpoint security, then moved into network security, then moved into process like security incident handling, then moved into security operations, then data loss prevention, then policy governance, now cloud security. Cloud computing is another area where kids can definitely focus, because cloud security started 5 years back, cloud computing, and then cloud security, because with any computing, there will be security challenges. So cloud security challenges started. We hear all about like cloud security, where the data is stored, what's happening with the data, whether we are compromising on privacy. So privacy is another area where kids can, anyone who is interested in cybersecurity can focus privacy concepts or the technologies related with the privacy. So you have three different options. Like either you can go into the cybersecurity engineering side, where you actually help build cybersecurity products or solutions, or getting into services where you execute or implement those services, implement those products and technologies to help the industry, to help the customers to make sure that their cybersecurity is up to date. Or the third option is like interface with the customer. If you're an outgoing personality, you love speaking with people, you love sharing information with them, then system engineering or pre-sales is one of those areas which I would highly recommend, or solution architecture for your customers within cybersecurity.
Okay. So now, what happens here is I just want to ask this question as well. So here we have one from Abdul Samad. There's a very can be you can answer this. Is cybersecurity a better option in future? Because you are an example right in front of us. So for future as well, whether cybersecurity is a better option than any other IT major. That's what Abdul Samad want to ask.
Yeah, thanks, Abdul Samad. So my opinion is that cybersecurity is a better option in the past, in the present, as well as in the future. Because as long as there is information technology, as long as there is cyberspace, there will be threats, cyber threats, and as long as there are cyber threats, cybersecurity is a better option, because it's an ever-growing area. Like, so let's think like this. Imagine you have an expensive bike or an expensive car, and you park it on the side of the street, and then you walk and you go for shopping, or you go for eating your food from a restaurant and then come back. So in that time, anyone with a small piece of a metal, like maybe a nail or maybe a stone, can create multiple scratches on your car or your bike. So that means that information is like that. It's very valuable for you, but the problem is that people may have enough spare time. There are more people who have spare time who want to get into all this field and create a problem with your information or with your data. So that means that then your data security or your information security is important. So that means the people with bad intention or people with a malicious intent will have all the free time to do all these things, and all these hacking tools are available. I don't want to point, and I don't want to promote hacking and all those things. Ethical hacking is always better, because then there are different courses in that, like certified ethical hacker from EC Council. So there are different options within that. So to make it clear, it's that people who want to create a problem with information technology or in the cyberspace, or can create a cybersecurity threat, have all the free time, and the tools are available for them to create all these problems in no time. So it is freely available, or it's available at a very reduced price. Like, it's really cheap to get some of these hacking tools. So that area is not going to go away in any time soon, because cybersecurity is a real threat, and it's always going to happen, because today cybersecurity is not like stealing some information from a specific company. Like, now today cybersecurity is about creating problems between countries as well as between specific set of industries. So the impact is really long lasting. So it's always, that option potential is always there. Like, what happens of 10, 15 years later, I can predict now, but I can see that in the immediate future, there is definitely a potential within cybersecurity space. So have your eyes there, proper focus, and start working towards that. All the best.
As the world is getting into digital and more people are using digital devices, and it's going to have connected cars with IoT enabled cars, vehicle, and everything, I feel like cyber threat can be even more, because I have heard that even cars can get hacked, because some of those very advanced cars which are connected through internet, so that cars also can get hacked. So that means the future, the opportunity is going to be even more for cybersecurity professionals, is what is my personal belief. So I have this question from Ms. Rekha Radhakrishnan. So a little bit generic, but then probably I feel if you can be a little bit more specific, how much could you be expecting to earn right after college in America? So probably she wants to understand whether if you do a degree from the US, so what can be these your earnings, the salary which you can.
Okay. So it's a pretty much subjective area, or it's pretty much a relative area. So I will try to address it from a much more accuracy perspective. Now, it all depends, like, from where you graduate. So if you are graduating from an Ivy League institute, like say an MIT or Stanford and those kind of things, you can definitely get a good break. A good break could be ranging from like 100K US and up. So that's a good break to start with. Now, if you don't have experience, it may be like plus or minus maybe 10, 15K here and there. All amounts are in US dollars. Now, if you're trying to get into the field just after getting graduation from India, it highly depends. Like, people want to see whether you have local market experience. So, which I can't understand. Like, I've been trying to understand in the past 10, 15 years, like after my life in North America, in between US and Canada, is that in cybersecurity, what kind of local market experience you need? It's all about the technology, right? But technology itself is not going to be of much use if you cannot interact and understand the market movements and stuff like that. So if you're a graduate from India, getting a direct job in one of those US cybersecurity companies based in US, it's going to be pretty tough, because there is a lot of locally available talent which needs to be employed. So definitely that needs to be addressed. Now, if as I mentioned, if you're not from the Ivy League, then there may be difference in your thing, but this is the general range. Like between 80 and 100K would be a nice starting range, depending on which stream you are focusing on. Like, software development engineering side, or you want to get into system engineering or pre-sales, like what I'm doing, then it's not a fixed compensation. So it will be your base and then your commissions based on what kind of deals are being brought in. Like it's basically it's a difference between revenue generation and then software design as well as software engineering, right? So depending on where you want to start, or you want to get into consulting, cybersecurity consulting, and all those things, then consultants are paid a little bit less. So you have to keep all those factors in mind. So a range would be like 70 to 80K, and then all the way up to 120K is pretty much a good range, depending on the university from where you graduate.
So now those people who really want to get into cybersecurity domain, so is there any certification or specific training, specific qualification which can really make them eligible to get into cyberspace immediately after their graduation in engineering from India?
Yeah, so some of the areas, like if you see my profile, like my certifications include GSEC. GSEC is a GISE Global Information Assurance Certification. GSEC, it is a GISE Security Essential Certification. The
So
other area,
shall I type this so that people also can see the qualifications which they can acquire? So I will just keep typing as you say, so
yeah,
that
or
they
just
also will
just
be.
copy from my profile and then put it onto the screen. That should be good.
Yes. So I will just. Okay, you can talk. So I will just keep typing. So
Yeah, so there are different kinds of certification. One is hardcore technical. The second one is quasi-technical. The third one is pure management based certification or audit based certifications. Now, certifications, as I mentioned, like can be divided into these three. So hardcore technical certifications are the Cisco certifications like CCIE. That is a hardcore technical certification. So SANS Institute has some security certifications like GISE certified, like GCIA, GCIH, like incident handler, intrusion analyst, and those kind of things. Those are highly regarded within the cybersecurity space. So I have one of those security certifications from SANS. Then CASSP, Certified Information Security System professional. CASSP is one of those certifications which is well regarded in the industry space. So it is quasi-technical. Quasi-technical means you will learn the technology as well. You will learn some of the management aspect as well. So CASSP is another one. Like there is one more certification within like one level below the CASSP. I can't recollect that off my head because I never did that. I directly went for my CASSP. Then the other certification, so that's from ISE Squared. So you can search on you can search on any of the search engines about ISE Square, like ISE in curly brackets and then Square. And then ISACA is another organization from where you can get certification. So those are also quasi-technical, like the CASM, Certified Information Security Manager, is one of those certifications. Then in management space, there is uh, CISA, Certified Information System Auditor. So that is from an auditing perspective. So that is also quasi technical. I would say it is more from an auditing and management perspective. And then there are cloud related certifications like certified cloud security knowledge base, then hardcore technology certifications like certified ethical hacker from EC Council. So all these things are pretty much good and pretty much worth your time and your effort, as well as the kind of investment which you make on doing that. So I'm a certified CSSP trainer as well. So I do my trainings online now because of COVID, like everything is online. So I do that certifications as well. I I impart those security certification training as well. So that is another aspect. So CSSP is one of those things. So these are some of the security certifications which are pretty much highly regarded in the cybersecurity space. So I won't recommend getting vendor-specific certifications. So vendor-specific certifications are like Cisco certifications is one of those examples. So Cisco certification, so any vendor certification, the problem with that is like then you're trained and certified on that specific technology. So that means that if you are looking for a job in like Cisco security, Cisco security could be either directly with Cisco or could be with Cisco partners or could be with consultants or uh, one of those implementation partners of Cisco, where you get a job saying that, let's say you are certified on Cisco firewalls. So that means that then you can definitely get a job opening into one of those consultants, like Big Four consultants who are doing implementation service or security auditing of Cisco firewalls. So that is one of those examples. So vendor specific certifications have that problem, then you will not get the holistic view. Holistic view is like it's like a general surgeon. Like you can do perform any kind of surgeries, but can you do what a neurosurgeon is doing? You may not be, because then you need specific skill sets for doing that. But being a general surgeon, like the employability might be more because there is an opening for like a generalist in most of the places. But in some places, your skill sets, if you are having skill sets in that specific focus area, then getting the right opportunity might be a problem because you know it. Like if you are getting it pretty much narrow, saying that this is an example of saying that, yes, I am a neurosurgeon, but I do surgeries only on the left pinkies. So that means that then you are restricted and highly focused on that area. Like I'm a cybersecurity specialist focusing on data loss prevention, but I will focus only on data loss prevention of MasterCard, credit card numbers. So then I am getting restricted or I'm boxed into only that specific area. So it's better to keep it little bit relaxed, little bit wider scope, so that it's always better to have like there is a famous saying like master of all but all
Jack of
trades, but you are yeah, you are not
Jack of
focusing
all.
on yeah. So yeah, it may be wrong. Like you cannot be master in each and everything what you do. So then you will get restricted and you will be boxed only on that specific area. So when you start your career, it's better to keep it wider, and then as and when your career is progressing, you can make a decision based on like how the industry predictions are happening. So the another key thing is like my advice to all is like keep a watch on what are the industry predictions for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, what's happening. So it's always better to look into those industry predictions. Some good sources to learn from that is like Gartner Magic Quadrant or Gartner report to find out what's happening on that specific area, like email security, anti-spam, and all those things. So it starts from like one, but it will lead into multiple things. So it's like an old saying, or like all of us know about like Arjuna's way of using the bow and the arrow, right? Like when he takes a arrow from his avanari, like it's only one, but when he actually puts an aim
Shoot
and
it.
then shoots it, like it becomes thousand and then in millions, right? So it will be like that. So when you start, you have to start somewhere. So have an open mind and then start somewhere. So I would like to share one of my other experience, like even though we never got a chance to highlight that is, so when I was moving from India to, so in India, I was working in the same field, like cybersecurity field. So I was moving with my family 10, 11 years back to Canada. So I was having an open mind saying that I was ready to do any kind of job. It's not like I was a premium resource in India, so I should get a premium job when I land in Canada because it's a new country, it's a new market, and all those things. So you have to keep those things in mind, like when you are moving from one country to another country. So you need to have an open mind in doing that. So what happened was that, like I was ready to work in Starbucks, or in Canada, like we have more Tim Hortons than Starbucks. So Tim Hortons is another coffee chain. It's a Canadian coffee chain. So what happened was that like I was ready and I was prepared to do even work in Starbucks when I came. Like I didn't have a job because I had resigned from India, and then I was in between doing a part time. I was doing a consulting work for one of those classified security operations in India. I cannot talk more about that. So that was a brief time, and then I moved to Canada. So when I landed, I didn't have a job. Luckily, my wife had a job, so it was nice. So I was ready to work. So what happened was that I was lucky to get my first break within the first month. So I got my first break in the first month. And what happened was that in that organization, so I was working in a company called Aviva, the insurance company, as a security architect. So so what happened was that they have a concept of like having coffee coffee day. Like coffee day is like you buy coffee and then you serve it for the entire department or entire group as part of your goodwill gesture. So I was telling all my friends that vending coffee was part of, like, it was written somewhere here, like it was written somewhere there, so that I had to do that as part of my life. So have an open mind. I see many people who say that like I am pretty much experienced. I am a general manager in one of those companies in India. So when I come to US or Canada, will I get the same job? You may not, because it's a new market, it's a new country, it's a new situation. So you may not get that. So you have to start somewhere. So have that open mind for experienced people. For younger people, like you may not have that. You may not have that opportunity to face that situation. So because you will be starting somewhere and then you won't have that problem. So have an open mind. So that's my message.
Okay. So now, just to ask about this costing of these courses, you have given a lot of certification name. I have two questions. One, whether they will be able to do the certification during their study time itself, during the engineering degree, or do they have to have some experience, or they have to work somewhere to do that courses? Second, what can be the costing? How much should they spend? Because they are spending quite a good sum in engineering colleges in India. So do they have to spend again a huge sum to do the certifications?
Okay, so that's a good point that you brought up, Sree Kiran. So these all the security certifications are not cheap. So it is, yeah, expensive is a relative term. So the cost ranges from $300 all the way to $500. This is without the training, only for the exam fees and stuff
Certification.
like that. Yeah, only for the certification. These are in US dollars. So you
Okay.
have to add the conversion factor and all those things and keep in mind. So certain specific certifications need you to have in two different stages. So one is you can take an exam and then you can clear the exam. So that means you have cleared the exam, but you are not certified, because for certification you need somebody to endorse you. So to endorse, that means that someone who is experienced in the field and who has the same or a similar certification in good standing. In good standing means like I did my first certification in 2000. So there need to be somebody. So I am in good standing with all my certifications. So that means every year I need to complete some specific mentorship program. I need to do some specific security learning at this age. So I need to learn and I need to update my skills as well. So what happens is that, let's take an example of CASSP. So CASSP also has one more certification. I think it's one more level below. So they mandate for CASSP, they mandate 5-year experience within cybersecurity. So they have different domains. That domains are known as common body of knowledge, the CBK. It's Charlie Beta Kite, so CBK. So what happens is that in all those areas, like in one of those areas, you should have at least a minimum of 5 years experience to get it endorsed. So that means someone who is graduating today and they are clearing the exam of CASSP, they have to wait for 5 years to get that endorsed. So that means they are certified, but they cannot endorse it. So they cannot use it in their credentials. They cannot use the credentials in their experience and say that this is um, like MLA failed MLA kind of stuff. Like you cannot use that. So there is no point in doing that. But the CSSP has one more, which has, I think, a 3-year experience requirement. So what I would suggest is you can definitely look into other courses, like the science courses does not need any specific kind of experience for that. Cloud security does not need any kind of experience requirement for that. So search for those information in those specific websites, because the experience requirement keeps on changing. The main reason is that I'm not the final word on that. in that because I'm not certifying anymore because I have reached a stage like I can't put more certifications on my business card and because it's too much. It's longer than my name. So I can't put that. And so there is no point in doing that. So I am actually trying to increase my knowledge in some specific areas which I never had any experience or I didn't get any chance to go through that. So that is one thing. So second thing is, so look for those technical certifications which doesn't need any experience. So try to do that as a building block, and then that will add benefit to you. Let's say like any of the Cisco certifications, because Cisco is pretty much strong in the networking and the network security side. So it's always better to have one of the Cisco certifications as part of your stuff, like MCSE and all those things, like Microsoft certifications are when you do that, like when I wanted to do my first Microsoft certification, my vice president was telling me that Microsoft certifications are for school kids. Don't even do that. So that may be one of the areas because maybe he was highlighting that you don't need experience to do that kind of certification. So you can do that. So any of the Microsoft, any certifications which doesn't mandate minimum experience requirement, you can do that. But also think that there are other students who would be in the similar situation, like who don't have experience, who might be doing the same thing. So then you can't differentiate yourself from them in the job market. So you have to keep that in mind. So let's say I'm the hiring manager and I see two resumes, similar experience, similar certifications. So then how do you differentiate? So you need to do something which is niche. That means which is really unique, which is going to be beneficial for you. So you have to keep that in mind. But all these certifications, as I mentioned, $200 to $300 starting, and then $400, $500. Study materials and all those things are not expensive. Like most of the study materials are under 70 US dollars. Now, all these dollars are, I'm mentioning in US dollars. So study materials are available for that. I won't recommend going for any focused training. You don't need focused training for that. But EC Council, like for certified ethical hacker, they have focused training which will be beneficial. But all these trainings, apart from the certifications, if you add only the security trainings, all of them are really expensive. So just to give an overview, the same CASSP exam may be like 300, 400, or $500, but the training for that could cost anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000. So keep that in mind. So you can learn on your own. Now everything is online available. Like you need to have the discipline to start learning it now. It's better to get that certification and then maybe get it endorsed after 5 years of experience. So this will be really helpful in anyone who want to get into that field.
So we have one question from Mr. Jiboy Panika. So the question is, for students from ground zero, what all courses you suggest start with? Of course, to start with. So advanced Linux, Unix is the very first step, I believe. Python is the programming language, or Shell. So what are the things which he was asking about programming language to start with, the basics?
Yeah. So that would be a good option to start with, like for anyone who is starting from that basic level. Having a focus on Linux, Unix, because most of the enterprise servers, like they run on Linux, Unix, and that kind of base. So it's better to have that kind of first step. So I definitely agree with that. So the language, programming languages, like it could be anything, like depending on their, if you have the logic in place, the rest of the things are just building blocks, like be it Python or be it Perl, C++, and then C Sharp, and those kind of things are just Java and all those kind of things. So those are just the building blocks on top of which you build your own skill sets on top of that. So you should always be on the lookout or finding out like whether these have definitely opportunities in the market space if you want to get into that. So if you are planning to get into programming, like getting into that coding for security products or getting into testing, product testing or code testing and those kind of things, yeah, it's always better to have those languages which are in demand. So you have to look into the demand first. So a good way of understanding the demand is that go and visit job portals. So any kind of recruitment portals, find out what kind of requirements are coming there, and then try to read through the industry analysis to see like, okay, let's take an example of Perl programming. Perl programming, like any jobs requirements are being specifically asking for Perl programming. If it is, then there is definitely scope, because I'm a strong believer that there is no point in learning something which you are not going to use anywhere. So I was my daughter, she is going into high school, so she was asking me like, we learn about algebra and all those things, so where do you apply that in your job? I didn't have an answer, because in my line of work, we don't need algebra to be used, or we don't use that concepts in anywhere, like except for one or two cases where you actually do that. So there is no point in learning something which is not going to be of use. So the better thing is to have like how better you can equip for the future. So definitely, programming is never going out of the market, that is for sure. But which languages are in demand? It's better to learn those things which are currently in demand, as well as let's say you are a you are a 10th grade student, like you are on grade 10. Now, if you're looking for some of those areas like which may be popular now, may not be popular in 2 years' time, by the time you complete your 12th, or by the time you get into your college, like either science stream or the other thing is like, for getting into cybersecurity space, you don't need to be from an engineering background. You don't need to be from a science background. I have I have a lot of my professional colleagues who come from dissimilar background, who are arts majors, but they have their mind which they are using it, and they have that skill sets which they can use it for that specific areas. So you don't need to be from an engineering background. Yes, it is helpful, but if you have the mind, even an arts major can get into cybersecurity. Even a commerce
Okay.
major can get into security. One of the examples is like a commerce major getting into security is not into coding, but you have to keep that in mind. Like getting a commerce major to come into cybersecurity and do start coding. Yes, we may do that, but one of the areas I'm just trying to give an example. Like, so in security audit, so there are different statistical models and finding out for any kind of fraud and those kind of things by the leading digit. So by the units, tens and hundreds. So let's say there is an example. Let's say that you are doing a, let's say you are a commerce graduate. You are a commerce graduate and you got into cybersecurity space and you are doing security audit. Now, when you're doing security audit to find out any kind of frauds and stuff like that, there is an expense claim which is happening. And let's say the limit is $900. So the best way to bypass that $900 is that if you submit your claim for 899 or 898 or 895. So based on the statistical probability of the units, tens and hundreds, you can always raise a flag saying that, yes, this person is trying to commit fraud. So you can do the fraud audit for that. So you don't need to be that kind of technology person to get into cybersecurity space. So cybersecurity, as I said, like there is a space for each and everyone to get into that. So I would highly encourage anyone who want to get into cybersecurity space. This is an exciting field. Like when I started my career in cybersecurity, I did not know that it's going to be this much exciting. I knew that it was going to be exciting, but it's really exciting and it's so much satisfying to be in this field.
We have one continuation of this question from Jiboy. So probably that can be the last question for today. So without training, how can the students get the hands-on? So as we said, like it's a chicken egg case. So how
Mhm.
can they get how the same like the chicken and egg story? So how can the students get hands-on without getting the trainings? So
Yeah.
in cybersecurity.
Yeah. It's like it's two sides of the same coin. Like unless you have experience, you won't get any kind of value in that. So one of the suggestions is that to get the training, one is getting into an internship with companies. The companies, you won't get paid. So there are two kinds of internships, like paid internship as well as um, the
Yeah.
not paid internship. So what happens is that any kind of internship coming in your way, I don't think the student should think twice about it. Like you should just pick it up and then get that experience. So any kind of experience which you get is going to be valuable. Now, without training, if you don't, so there are specific organizations, there are specific training organizations who train and give experience to students as well. So I don't know about because I don't keep in touch with any of the updates within India, like who is doing that and all those things. But maybe a quick search would definitely give you an information about who actually gives that kind of training. So that kind of training is going to be helpful. Otherwise, like get the first job and try to build the training or try to get the training in that. But the same thing I'm mentioning is that like if let's say there are two students, one student actually did some security course out of their normal curriculum as part of their interest in cybersecurity, and another student did not do anything. They just studied what was taught in the curriculum. So if that person is coming into the market, and definitely the student who did an extra course has some more information about that, they can do. It's all about how you present yourself in an interview. Like how do you convince? So getting that kind of confidence, self-confidence, and then how can you convince the person who is interviewing you, saying that yes, I can be a value addition to the organization, and then I can be a real good team player. So team player is another key thing what I would like to highlight again and again, is that try to reiterate that I don't mention that I am a one-man army, I can do anything on my own, because teaming collaboration is of importance. Like, so there are specific interview skill sets which you need to have. I think we need to have a follow-up session where we can have a discussion about how you
Sure.
can highlight all those skills in a specific interview, and how you can highlight your core strengths and how much value you can bring on to that specific organization who is looking to
Sure.
hire you.
Sure. So that was a fantastic discussion. We are almost 60 minutes now. So thank you so much, Sangamji, for your time. And I just would like to sum up what all things we have shared. So we started with what the skill set you have to have, like the conceptual understanding, their mathematical knowledge, and about, of course, they should have that open-mindedness to learn new things. And in their, of course, in pre-university time, they should learn physics, chemistry, and mathematics. And they should give focus on that as well, like basically your numerical skills. So once you join in engineering, of course, in IT and other streams, as you can take, and to become a cyber security professional, this was a very good information for all of us, that you don't have to have a engineering background. So anyone who, with any background with arts or accounting or science or commerce, any background have an opportunity in cybersecurity, and that is ever emerging. And Sangamji has given us a lot of options, the certifications which you can take, which can really take you to heights, along with his, like the way he shared his experience. And the key is, please find out your mentor. And I request, if there is any real interested people, if they reach us, shall we share your email ID to reach out to you if they require any advice or any mentoring support? Will that
Yeah,
be
sure.
possible?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. So I have to definitely mention two, three things. One is, yes, definitely you can share. So I have a Facebook page called Cyber Guru. So you can send me your queries, or you can submit your queries online using that Facebook page. It is Cyber Guru. So we would mention that, like on the like, I think Sree might be typing that page details. If not, we can definitely add to this. Now, last but not least, please don't get into hacking. That is my humble request and humble advice. It may get you the money, fame, and all those things, but sooner or later, you have to face the law. So please don't get into that. Use the information for good purposes, for protecting information, protecting customers, protecting other people, than trying to create damage for others. So that is my humble advice and opinion.
Okay. And he rightly mentioned about creating your LinkedIn power profile. So LinkedIn is a tool, as he said, which can really connect us to the professionals and which can connect to the industry. And the happy news is tomorrow, 5 o'clock, we have a LinkedIn specialist coming in. So she is from Ireland. Her name is Miss Shreya, and very young, dynamic personality who is in the media and content writing. She's a student where she got appreciation directly from LinkedIn CEO, who all the way came down to Dublin to see her and then greet her. And he really appreciated her work, and she has many followers in LinkedIn. Almost all her posts are getting circulated for about 20,000 people. So such a very nice personality who will be coming at 5 o'clock tomorrow to explain us about the LinkedIn tactics, how we can build followers, how we can connect in LinkedIn. And tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, we have a celebrity. So with Sangam knows, Madam Sreeja Shyam is joining with us on media and communication aspects of it. So thank you so much, Sangamji, for giving us such vital information to build a career in cybersecurity and other IT emerging field. So we will have one more session probably with a couple of other people as well to understand what the other emerging field in IT. So we couldn't get much time to talk about other emerging fields. So we will definitely have another session to explain what the other emerging field in information technology domain. So as he said, it's a very big, broad spectrum. So thank you so much. It was quite fantastic. And thank you so much for the viewers here in the late night. You are watching us. Thank you so much, Sangamji, in the early morning to spend your precious time with us. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sree. Thank you all. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much. See you all by tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock and 8 p.m. as well. Thank you. Good night. Take care. This is from Career Coffee Club. Me signing off. Thank you.